And then he'd say at the end, also the MVP, eventually, that he's better than him. Yeah, because he hesitated there for a second.
Oh my God, he didn't just hesitate. He literally had a long pause.
So next we'd have the ECW World Championship match. It would be Kane versus Chavo Guerrero with Bam Neely in his corner. So, Kane would have the injured knee going into this match, following the chair shots from the past week on ECW. So, Kane would really just dominate the first part of this. I was actually wondering when Chavo was going to start getting some offense in.
I know. We had this one guy and one leg just kicked ass for a good solid 20.
Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of weird, but eventually Chavo does come back with some offense. Then he just targets the knee basically, and then what do I really say about this? Bam Neely was basically useless in this because he didn't even get involved whatsoever, even though he was supposed to, I guess, be a difference maker of some kind.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. The only thing he did was when Chavo and had Kane tied up in the post.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it looked like he didn't even know what to do.
Yeah, and the commentary was not the greatest with this. Taz was trying to explain things and whatnot. And Adam Lee was new at the time, and yeah, I feel bad for that guy because he seemed like Chavo would get the frog splash, but there'd be a no sell, and Kane would get him into the choke slam, hit him with it, 1, 2, 3. Kane would retain the title. Yeah, not much to say about that.
No, not at all.
2.5 from you. I just went with 2. It was see, I get why they did what they did at Mania now, because it's what could they have really done with this?
True that.
It was nothing against both guys, because I respect both guys a lot. I think Chavo's really underrated, but it's a clash in styles,
Totally different style.
Yeah, so Kane would retain the title 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Then next we'd have Big Show versus Great Khali, 1-on-1.
Right.
So, yeah, 2 giants, 2 large men. What can I say about that?
Yeah, so really not really. What can we say here? Just 2 giants. One if you watch WrestleMania 23, I kept making fun of Great Khali because he can't move, still can't move at this time.
Well, no, it's not going to get. That's just stuck that way.
But really, first of all, the match was 2 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'll give them credit because they were trying their asses off. You could totally tell they were trying to.
They're trying to do stuff, yeah.
It just wasn't working.
Yeah, so, what can I say? There was a "You Can't Wrestle" chant from the crowd. There was Khali at one point trying to do a crippler crossface.
Yeah, oh my God. First of all, when he went down, it looked like a freaking tree was falling.
Yeah. And it was basically just a chin lock.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, which is it was actually like a choke. He was choking him, which I guess no one made mention of, but whatever. Then there was boring chants from the crowd after Khali would just would hold it, and he didn't do anything with it after a while. He just hold the position, hold the chin lock or whatever, crossface, whatever the hell it was supposed to be.
Yeah, but eventually, Big Show would hit the choke slam. Dude, he got Great Khali up.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Cowie first tried to go for that Cowie plunge, Show would block it, then there's the choke slam, then he'd win off that. It wasn't as bad as I imagined, which that's not saying much considering my expectations were all the way down in the dirt, but
yeah.
They probably could have done something else with it, done maybe a different match where it could have played more to their strengths or something, but, I don't think anyone expected a good match, so, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
Star and a half from me, star and 3/4 from you.
I was just being nice because of the effort.
Next, we'd have John Cena in the back hanging with Jimmy Wang Yang, of all people. And then we'd have Randy Orton interrupt them and tell Cena that he's going to be disappointed just like he was at WrestleMania.
Well, he's nice.
So next we'd have the Shawn Michaels Batista match with Chris Jericho as the special guest referee.
Oh, this was solid for me.
Yeah, so Jericho would be the special guest referee, after having issues with both guys. Call right down the middle. And there's actually some moments where I completely forgot he was even the ref.
And it was so great because he actually, looked like he was an actual, official. You know what I mean? He actually, there's not much special guest referees that actually know what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
But Jericho actually...
Yeah, he calls down the middle.
Well. Yeah, and he played it super well.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so we'd have two different styles. So actually going into this on paper, I guess I wouldn't really know how I'd really feel about this one because once again you got Michaels, he's the he's the showstopper. He's got he's a great technical guy, but he could be he could take it to the air, And then you got Batista, the big powerhouse, whatever. So it's the contrasted styles, but it is Shawn, so one of the best in ring performers ever, maybe the best ever. So even at this stage, he's still great. But so Batista would try to avoid the super kick or switch in music early on. Then he'd go for the Batista bomb, but then Shawn would roll out to the floor. And then Shawn would try to use his speed advantage against Batista. And then Batista would get him with a clothesline in the corner. And then Shawn would do his famous selling where, he'd go up. He'd I don't even know how to describe it. He'd just get Uh-huh. And then Shawn would then he'd get Batista by the knee, then he'd get him into a short arm scissors move, and then he'd start working on the arm from there.
Eventually, Batista would use his freakishly large strength. They would take a nasty fall to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Michaels would actually be targeting the arm most of the match. But, of course, Batista being as strong as he is.
Yeah, Shawn would actually be in control a fair amount of this match, which is actually, kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Especially when Batista is supposed to have the one, with the power game or whatever, the power advantage. So whenever you have that kind of deal, it's kind of surprising when someone like Shawn has the advantage. But
and this is the second night in a row, second pay-per-view in a row that the crowd is just not behind Batista.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of granted he's against Shawn. He's the bigger star, but it's it is Shawn. It's hard to beat Shawn in a popularity contest kind of thing.
It is, but then at the same time, at WrestleMania 24, people were behind Umaga, not Batista.
True, this is true. Maybe he's kind of at the Cena stage here, where it's people are just kind of sick of him doing the same old deal or whatnot. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people just were just sick of him, he was just stale.
Maybe.
Granted, this is 2020. We're talking about this is in 2008. So granted, we're pretty familiar with the time period, but we don't remember everything. So reasonings why the fans would have turned on Batista in this particular thing, I don't quite know or remember, but It's not like Cena where, they just started doing it like in like 2006 and then it just got worse over time. But I'm assuming that they would have turned on him because, he was kind of like the other big baby face, just it was time for something else.
Right, the possibility. There will also be a point in time where Jericho would actually have to get physical a little bit, physically removing Batista and or Shawn from the corner for refusing to break the 5 count. Then eventually in the match, Batista would go for it. Batista bomb. Shawn Michaels would reverse it, but then it would seem that he tweaked his knee.
Mm-hmm.
But while Batista was trying to get Shawn, while Jericho was checking on Shawn, Batista would try to get at Shawn, and then from out of nowhere, when you think he's down, he's not. Shawn Michaels would hit him with the sweet chin music, and from there, the victor would be Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, so Shawn would end up pulling out the fake knee injury deal and getting Batista with that trick, which later it'd be revealed that was the case, which, yeah, so he'd get him with that. Shawn Michaels would get him with the sweet chin music or the super kick, like the sweet chin music they call it. But, he basically, when I think of sweet chin music, typically it's when he's tuning up the band, then he goes and hits it. So he just hit him with basically the sweet chin music or the super kick out of nowhere. He'd get Batista to fall for it, and then, yeah, he'd win. The ratings for this, I went with 3.5. You went in 3 3/4. Really good match.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's kind of a weird finish, I guess, but after this, Shawn would still sell the knee. Then Jericho would grab him and help him to the back. But I guess at the time, if you were to seen this like back then, I guess he sold it so well, you probably couldn't tell if he was actually injured or not.
Yeah, he definitely sold it pretty well.
So the next, we'd have Randy Orton. He'd come to pay a visit to Triple H, who was sitting in the locker room. And then Orton would basically tell him, kind of a similar deal he's telling like Cena or whatever. Then Triple H would tell him that pride comes before a fall.
Again, Orton, when he's talking to his opponent, you wouldn't be looking at him. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was. So then next we'd have the 12 Diva Tag Team match. It would be Beth Phoenix, Jillian, Layla, Melina, Natalia, and Victoria versus Ashley, Sherry, Kelly, Maria, Michelle McCool, and Mickie James.
Woohoo! Yeah, that's what we like to see.
As I say every single time on the show, I feel so bad doing this because they've come a long ways with women's wrestling, especially in WWE. And of course women's wrestling in general, but especially with WWE, they had Mania, they had the Playboy matches and whatnot, so just a bunch of garbage. So I feel bad every single time we have to get to these parts of the shows for the rewinds, because it's we're never going to say anything great about it, so for the most part, so it's just sad. So I just hate to continually do that, but this is the standards of 2008 Divas matches, I guess. So especially on pay-per-views, God, they gave them no time. Although this one, they did give them a bit more time than I probably would have thought they did.
Again, not much to go by here, unfortunately. At some point, though, they're, of course, during a 12-man tag team match of any kind, there's, of course, that giant brawl that breaks. Don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah. Although that got a reaction though, so hey.
So hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah, so there'd be the point where Mickie would come in, she'd hit her DDT, then Victoria would come in, hit the Widow's Peak, and Michelle would kick her right in the face, and then from there everyone just comes in there, hits their move. And then Beth would hit the Fisherman suplex on Ashley for the win. Yeah, the same move she'd win the Mania match with.